and getting into that moment. That's one thing I've learned that I struggle with as well, is getting into that moment. And Katie stresses that so much. It's so important. You do a really good job at helping when you're doing the work 101 to write down how to get in that moment. Because what I tend to do is, it's hard for me to say I was so selfish, because then I think I am a selfish person. Whereas if you get into that moment, you can just see how you were being selfish in that moment. And then that is kind of where the growth and flip comes. Okay. So I just have to ignore the ego and just kind of get in there.
I'd sometimes say there's two parts of me. One is like the kind of wise part, kind of gets it, knows this is really just, oh yeah, that's just you doing that again. Oh, that's really like not a big deal. Or like really sees the wisdom. Like, oh yeah, no, that's so there's a wise part and there's a stuck part. There's a part of me that doesn't get it. And so most of the time we're letting the wise part kind of run the show because that's that's intelligent. But when I'm doing the work, I actually want to set that wise part aside a little bit and let the stuck part start to show up so that I can actually hear what it's saying. It's kind of crying in there, just like real quiet, kind of buried down there. But I'm kind of turning the microphone down and saying, hey, do you have anything to say? And when I ask that, it's like, yeah, but it's not fair. It's like a little kid, like, what? Like it has that whiny kind of voice. And when I let that tell me what to work, there's always something like, but I wanted to have that. And it's not, like that kind of feeling. He should have listened to me. And those kind of thoughts, they're ripe for doing the work. And so that's what we're doing. Like sort of set aside the ego, set aside the sensor machine, set aside that whole wisdom thing that will spiritually bypass you, right? They'll just say, oh, everything's fine. I dealt with that. I worked that one before. There's a million ways that the mind will say, yeah, that's not really, I don't really need to do the work on that. Oh, I'm over that. That's the wise part, right? But the stuck part saying, I am not over that. So please listen to me. And if you can allow yourself to go in there, it takes some humility, some courage to allow that. But if you can do that, it will tell you exactly what's bothering it. And then you can, just like being with a child, you can listen to it and say, okay, tell me. And finally, when it gets heard, that's already healing in itself. And then if you can go even further and say, hey, honey, do you want to actually go through and do these questions? I'll let you answer. Like the little stuck part can answer the questions. Is it true? And can you absolutely know it's true? Instead of some top-down authority of wisdom or whatever, trying to tell it what to do. It's like, no, I want to hear what you think. How do you react when you believe that thought? And who would you be without that thought? And can you find a turnaround? Like really sitting with that part of myself that's gotten triggered. That's a beautiful thing. So it's almost always there. Just gets covered by the part of me that is practical and wise and doesn't have any problems.